The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with an air of smug superiority. Representatives from 1,000 worlds lounged in their anti-gravity pods, their tentacles, appendages, and various sensory organs twitching with barely concealed boredom. Another standard cycle, another mundane meeting. High Counselor Xyrix of the Phlebetonians cleared his throat sacs, the sound reminiscent of a dying star collapsing in on itself. Order! I call this 457,892nd meeting of the Galactic Council to order. A collective groan rippled through the chamber. Counselor Ekithal of the luminous Concordat rolled all 7 of her eyes. Do we really need to discuss trade routes again? I swear by the cosmic egg, if I hear one more debate about hyperlane taxation dash. Silence. Xyrix's voice boomed, his bioluminescent patterns flashing an angry crimson. We have more pressing matters. The humans have submitted another petition for full membership. The chamber erupted in laughter. Guffaws, chortles, and the methane-based equivalent of snorts echoed off the crystalline walls. Those primitives? Ambassador Quilks of the Silicon Hive mind buzzed. They still use physical currency. And don't get me started on their laughable attempts at faster-than-light travel. Xyrix's tendrils waved in amusement. Indeed, their Alcubierre drives are quaint at best. But rules are rules. We must at least pretend to consider their application. A holographic display flickered to life, showcasing Earth and its solar system. The gathered aliens peered at it with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. As you can see, Xyrix continued, the humans have made some progress. They've terraformed Mars, established outposts on Europa and Titan, and even sent generation ships to nearby star systems. Ambassador Neelix of the Photosynth Collective scoffed, her leafy fronds rustling. Big deal. We were colonizing gas giants when their ancestors were still swinging in trees. The laughter grew louder. Even the usually stoic crystalline harmonies joined in, their facets vibrating with mirth. Xyrix raised a tendril for quiet. Now, let's not be too harsh. The humans have their charms. Their music isn't entirely awful, and some of their action movies are quite amusing. A chorus of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species had developed a fondness for human entertainment, even if they considered the creators hopelessly backward. So, Xyrix continued, all in favor of rejecting the human petition and relegating them to another cycle of probationary status, say I. The chamber resounded with a cacophony of affirmatives in 1,000 different languages. Excellent. Xyrix's bioluminescence pulsed with satisfaction. I'll draft the usual polite rejection. Now, on to more important matters. The Galactic Grand Prix is coming up, and we need to discuss the menu for the after-party. As the Council delved into the truly pressing issues of the galaxy, a lone figure sat in the shadows of the observation deck. Thrix Vex, junior attaché to the Terran Embassy, clenched her fists in frustration. She'd watched the proceedings with growing anger, her translator implant picking up every snide comment and dismissive joke. Laugh it up, you arrogant pricks, she muttered under her breath. One of these days, you'll see what humanity is really capable of. Little did Thrix know, her words would prove prophetic far sooner than anyone could have imagined. For even as the Council debated the merits of various exotic appetizers, a storm was brewing on the fringes of known space. A threat that would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization and force everyone to reevaluate their preconceptions about a certain primitive species from a backwater arm of the Milky Way. The Galactic News Network's emergency broadcast cut through every communication channel, its urgent tone silencing the usual cacophony of interstellar chatter. This is not a drill. The multi-voiced AIs intoned, their harmonics quivering with barely contained panic. We interrupt all transmissions to bring you breaking news from the Outer Rim. In bars, homes, and spaceship bridges across the galaxy, beings of all species turned their attention to the nearest holo display. What they saw sent shivers through exoskeletons and chilled the ichor in a million alien veins. The footage was grainy, distorted by vast distances and unknown interference. But the horror it conveyed was unmistakable. An armada of sleek, obsidian ships poured through a tear in space-time, their hulls seeming to absorb light itself. They moved with impossible speed and precision, dancing between the defensive lines of the galactic peacekeeping fleet as if they weren't even there. The Xthrax Nebula cluster has fallen. The news AI continued, its voice modulating to convey appropriate gravitas. All contact with the 17 inhabited systems in the region has been lost. The nature and origin of the attacking force remain unknown. On a luxury starliner bound for the pleasure worlds of the inner core, High Counselor Xyrix's vacation came to an abrupt end. His communication implant buzzed with urgent messages from a dozen different species. For once, the pompous Phlebetonian was at a loss for words. "Impossible," he finally sputtered, his bioluminescent patterns flashing erratically. The Xthrax defenses were impenetrable. Their quantum-entangled shield grid was dash. Useless, apparently, interrupted Admiral Krovnik's of the Galactic Fleet. The grizzled veteran's hologram flickered into view, his chitinous face plate set in a grim expression. "Whatever these things are, they cut through our best tech like it wasn't even there." Over the next solar cycle, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The mysterious armada, dubbed the Void Fleet by panicked civilians, seemed to be everywhere at once. They struck with terrifying speed and efficiency, neutralizing planetary defenses before most populations even realized they were under attack. The crystalline harmonies? Shattered. The silicon hive mind? Corrupted and assimilated. Even the energy beings of the luminous Concordat found themselves powerless against weapons that somehow disrupted the very fabric of space-time. In a hastily convened emergency session of the Galactic Council, fear and desperation replaced the usual air of smug superiority. "We have to do something!" Ambassador Quilks buzzed frantically, his silicon-based form vibrating with distress. "At this rate, they'll reach the core worlds within a standard month." "But what?" Counselor Ekithal wailed, all 7 of her eyes wide with terror. "Nothing we throw at them even slows them down. It's like they know our every move before we make it." As accusations flew and tempers flared, a quiet voice cut through the chaos. "Perhaps," it said, "it's time we considered unconventional options." All eyes, stalks, and sensory clusters turned towards the source. There, standing at the podium usually reserved for petitioning species, was Thrix Vex. The human's face was set in a determined scowl, her eyes blazing with a fire that made even the most agitated council members pause. "You've dismissed us as primitive," Thrix continued, her voice growing stronger. "Called our technology obsolete. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what we need right now." High Counselor Xyrix's tendrils waved in agitation. "This is preposterous. You can't seriously be suggesting dash." "I'm suggesting," Thrix cut him off, her tone brooking no argument, "that you've run out of options. Your quantum tech, your psionics, your antimatter weapons, they've all failed. So maybe it's time to try something the enemy won't expect. Something so archaic, so seemingly useless, that it just might work." A murmur ran through the chamber. Desperate eyes met across species divides. In that moment, the unthinkable became thinkable. Xyrix's bioluminescence dimmed in resignation. "Very well, human. You have the Council's attention. What, pray tell, do you propose?" Thrix Vex allowed herself a small, grim smile. "Let me tell you about a little thing we call Project Retrograde." As the human began to outline a plan so audacious, so seemingly suicidal, that it left the assembled galactic leaders speechless, a spark of hope flickered to life in the darkness. Could these primitive apes, these upstart newcomers to the galactic stage, truly hold the key to salvation? The fate of countless civilizations now rested on the shoulders of a species most had written off as a cosmic joke. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's obsolete ways might just save them all. The mood aboard the UES Thunderchild was tense, bordering on frantic. Captain Zara Blackburn paced the bridge, her weathered face a mask of concentration. Around her, a crew of Earth's finest worked with grim determination, their fingers dancing across consoles that looked downright archaic compared to the holographic interfaces favored by most galactic species. "Status report," Zara barked, her voice cutting through the low hum of ancient electrical systems. Lieutenant Commander Rao looked up from his station, dark circles under his eyes betraying nights of sleepless preparation. Project Retrograde is at 89% readiness, Captain. We're just waiting on final calibrations from engineering. Zara nodded, allowing herself a small sigh of relief. She still couldn't quite believe they were going through with this insane plan. But desperate times called for desperate measures, and humanity had always excelled at thinking outside the box. A chime from the communications array drew her attention. "Captain," the comms officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It's High Counselor Xyrix himself." On screen, Zara ordered, straightening her jacket and steeling herself for another round of condescension from their alien allies. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing Xyrix's bioluminescent form. Even through the distortion of faster-than-light communication, the Phlebetonian's agitation was clear. "Captain Blackburn," Xyrix's translator rendered his burbles into crisp English. "Please tell me you have good news. The Void Fleet has just breached the Orion Arms defensive line. We're running out of time." Zara met the alien's gaze steadily. "We're nearly ready, Counselor. Project Retrograde will be operational within the hour." Xyrix's tendrils writhed in what Zara had learned to interpret as extreme skepticism. "And you're certain this primitive technology of yours will be effective? I must stress again how utterly insane this plan sounds." "With all due respect, Counselor," Zara replied, a hint of steel entering her voice. "Your advanced technology hasn't exactly been getting the job done. Sometimes, to quote an old Earth saying, you need to fight fire with fire." "Fire with dash," Xyrix sputtered, his translator struggling to keep up with his agitated vocalizations. "What does combustion have to do with any of this?" Zara suppressed a smirk. "It's just an expression, Counselor. What matters is that we're ready to deploy. All we need is your final authorization to proceed." There was a long pause as Xyrix seemed to wage an internal battle. Finally, his bioluminescence dimmed in resignation. "Very well, Captain. You have the full backing of the Galactic Council. May whatever deities you believe in have mercy on us all." As the transmission cut out, Zara turned to address her crew. "All right, people, this is it. The moment we've been training for. I won't sugarcoat it. What we're about to attempt is so crazy, it just might work. But make no mistake, the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy rests on our shoulders." She paused, meeting the eyes of each crew member in turn. "We're about to show these aliens what humans are really made of. It's time to remind the galaxy why they should have taken us seriously from the start. Are you with me?" A chorus of "Aye, Captain," rang out across the bridge, filled with a determination that sent chills down Zara's spine. "Excellent," she nodded, allowing herself a fierce grin. "Helm, set course for the Void Fleet's last known position. Tactical, begin final preparations for Project Retrograde deployment. Engineering, I want every last ounce of power you can squeeze out of our systems." As the Thunderchild's ancient fusion drives roared to life, propelling the ship towards what could very well be a suicide mission, Zara Blackburn sent up a silent prayer. Not to any god, but to the ingenuity and sheer stubborn will of humanity. Little did the Void Fleet know, they were about to face an enemy armed with weapons so old, so seemingly obsolete, that they defied all conventional galactic military doctrine. Humanity was bringing a proverbial knife to a gunfight, and they intended to win. As the stars streaked by outside the viewports, the crew of the Thunderchild steeled themselves for the battle to come. They were mankind's last, best hope, and they were about to show the galaxy exactly what obsolete technology could do in the hands of a species that refused to go quietly into the night. The stage was set. Humanity's desperate gambit was about to unfold, and the fate of countless civilizations hung in the balance. The cavernous hangar bay of the UES Thunderchild thrummed with activity. Chief Engineer Ravi Chandrasekhar moved between rows of what, to any alien observer, would have looked like museum pieces. Bulky, angular shapes covered in dull metal plating, a far cry from the sleek, energy-sheathed vessels favored by the Galactic Council races. "How are we looking, Chief?" Captain Blackburn's voice crackled over the intercom. Ravi ran a calloused hand over the nose of the nearest craft, a grin spreading across his oil-smudged face. "Oh, she's ready, Captain. These babies are primed and itching for a fight." What the chief lovingly referred to as babies were, in fact, the cornerstone of Project Retrograde. F-22 Raptors, A-10 Thunderbolts, even a handful of refurbished B-2 Spirit bombers, aircraft designs dating back to the late 20th and early 21st centuries. But these weren't mere replicas. They've been painstakingly upgraded, retrofitted with technology that bridged the gap between their obsolete designs and the realities of space combat. As Ravi made his final checks, he couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations were about to witness warfare, straight out of humanity's history books. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Aisha Nazari pored over sensor readings with a furrowed brow. "Captain, I'm picking up some weird energy fluctuations from the Void Fleet. It's like they're scanning us but can't quite figure out what they're looking at." Zara allowed herself a small, grim smile. "Good. Looks like our hunch was right. Their advanced sensors are calibrated for energy shields and antimatter signatures. They're not used to dealing with good old-fashioned metal and combustion." "Should we really be happy about that?" Comms Officer Chen interjected, his voice tinged with nervous energy. "I mean, we're still massively outgunned here." "Outgunned, maybe," Zara replied, her eyes gleaming with determination. "But not outsmarted. Remember your history, people. Humanity's greatest victories have often come when we were the underdogs. We're about to remind the galaxy of that fact." A chime from the sensor array drew everyone's attention. "Captain," Aisha called out, her voice tight with tension. "Void Fleet vessels entering weapons range in T-minus 60 seconds. Zara's posture straightened, her voice ringing out clear and confident. "This is it, people. Sound battle stations. Launch all fighters. And may whatever gods are out there have mercy on our souls, because we sure as hell won't be showing the enemy any." Klaxons blared throughout the Thunderchild as the massive hangar bay doors yawned open. With a deafening roar that seemed to shake the very fabric of space, squadrons of obsolete Earth fighters poured forth, their contrails forming an improbable sight against the star-studded backdrop. In the lead Raptor, callsign Maverick, squadron leader Jason Park felt a surge of adrenaline as he gunned the engines. The G-forces pressed him back into his seat, a sensation no modern inertial dampener could replicate. "All wings report in," he barked into his comms. One by one, the squadron leaders checked in. Warthog lead, standing by. Spirit lead, ready to rain hell. The radio chatter was filled with a mix of nervous energy and steely determination. As the fighters formed up, the first wave of Void Fleet vessels came into view. Sleek, black shapes that seemed to devour the very light around them. For a moment, Jason felt a flicker of doubt. What chance did their ancient machines stand against such advanced technology? But then he remembered the countless hours of training, the simulations run against captured Void Fleet data. He remembered the words Captain Blackburn had spoken to them all before the mission. "They may have the technology, but we have the heart. And sometimes that makes all the difference." "All squadrons," Jason's voice rang out, steady and clear. "Weapons free. Let's show these bastards what Obsolete can do." With that, humanity's ragtag fleet of retrofitted relics surged forward. Missiles that had no business functioning in the vacuum of space streaked towards their targets, propelled by classified technology that merged the old with the new. Rotary cannons spun up, spitting streams of hypervelocity rounds that glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light. The Void Fleet, caught off guard by weapons and tactics their advanced systems couldn't fully comprehend, found themselves in chaos. Energy shields flickered and failed against kinetic impacts they were never designed to repel. Armor, optimized to withstand antimatter blasts, buckled under the onslaught of good old-fashioned explosives. As the battle was joined in earnest, with Earth fighters weaving between massive void cruisers in a deadly dance, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity had brought more than just outdated weapons to this fight. They brought unpredictability, ingenuity, and a ferocious will to survive. The galaxy was about to learn a harsh lesson. Sometimes, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the most advanced technology. It's the one willing to think outside the box. Or in this case, to reach back into history and repurpose the obsolete into something terrifyingly effective. As the stars themselves seemed to shudder with the fury of the battle, the fate of civilization hung in the balance. And humanity, the underdog, the primitive species, was determined to tilt that balance in their favor. The void of space erupted in a symphony of destruction. Streaks of tracer fire cut through the darkness, punctuated by the silent blooms of explosions. Earth's fighters danced between the lumbering behemoths of the Void Fleet, their agility defying the enemy's expectations. Aboard the UES Thunderchild, Captain Zara Blackburn's knuckles were white as she gripped the arms of her command chair. "Status report," she barked, eyes never leaving the tactical display. Lieutenant Aisha Nazari's fingers flew across her console. "It's working, Captain. Our fighters are inflicting significant damage. The Void Fleet's formations are breaking up." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by Zara's raised hand. "Don't celebrate yet, people. This is just round one." As if to punctuate her words, a massive energy surge lit up the sensors. "Incoming," Aisha shouted. "Unknown weapon signature." The view screen flared bright, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the glare faded, Zara's heart sank. Where an entire squadron of Earth fighters had been, there was nothing but dissipating plasma. "Damn it," she muttered. "They're adapting. Chun, get me Maverick." The comms crackled to life, filled with the sounds of battle. "Maverick here, Captain. Things are getting hot out here. Fall back to defensive formation Delta," Zara ordered. "They're on to us. Time for Phase 2. In the cockpit of his F-22, Squadron Leader Jason Maverick Park grinned despite the sweat stinging his eyes. "Roger that, Thunderchild. You heard the captain, people. Let's show them our party trick." As one, the Earth fighters began to retreat, drawing the Void Fleet into a carefully prepared kill box. From the hangar of the Thunderchild, a new wave of craft emerged. But these weren't fighters. They were drones, swarms of them, barely larger than missiles. "Now!" Zara's voice rang out. "Execute Operation Trojan Horse." The drones surged forward, their tiny frames packed with a technology that had taken years of secret development. As they neared the Void Fleet, they seemed to flicker. And then, impossibly, they were through the enemy's energy shields. Inside his Void Dreadnought, Supreme Commander Zoaxlax of the Harvesters, for that was the true name of the beings the galaxy had dubbed the Void Fleet, felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia: confusion. "Impossible!" he shrieked, his form writhing in agitation. "How are they bypassing our defenses?" His subordinates scrambled for answers, their hive mind connection buzzing with panic. But it was too late. The human drones had already attached themselves to the hulls of dozens of Void ships. Back on the Thunderchild, Chief Engineer Robbie's voice came over the comms, filled with barely contained glee. "Phase quantum tunneling is a success, Captain. Those little beauties are about to give the enemy one hell of a surprise." Zara allowed herself a fierce grin. "Do it." With that simple command, the drones activated. But they didn't explode, as the Void Fleet might have expected. Instead, they began to broadcast. Across the Harvester fleet, systems began to malfunction. Weapons powered down. Shields fluctuated wildly. And through every communication channel came a cacophony of noise. "What is this?" Zoaxlax howled, his translator struggling to keep up with his distress. Had he been human, he might have recognized the sounds. The staccato beat of Morse code, the hiss and pop of ancient radio transmissions, the whine of dial-up internet connections, snippets of music ranging from classical to heavy metal. It was information, raw, unfiltered, in formats so old and varied that the Harvester's advanced systems couldn't process it. Their hive mind, used to the orderly flow of data, was suddenly bombarded with the chaotic history of human communication. "It's a virus," one of Zoaxlax's officers screeched. But it's not like any code we've ever encountered." Of course it wasn't, because it wasn't a virus at all, not in the traditional sense. It was culture, art, music, literature, memes. the collected digital detritus of humanity's journey from the industrial age to the space age, and to the harvesters, whose entire society was built on cold, ruthless efficiency. It was anathema. As the Void Fleet fell into disarray, Zara saw their chance. All ships, this is Captain Blackburn, attack Pattern Omega. Hit them with everything we've got. Earth's fighters surged forward once more, joined now by the Thunderchild itself. Weapons that should have been relics of a forgotten age blazed to life, their effectiveness multiplied tenfold by the enemy's confusion. Void ships began to fall, their sleek forms torn apart by weapons they had dismissed as obsolete. And as they fell, a realization began to dawn across the galaxy. Humanity, the upstart species, the cosmic joke, had just turned the tide against an enemy that had seemed invincible. As the battle raged on, with the odds shifting more in Earth's favor with each passing moment, one thing became clear. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. For better or worse, everything was about to change. The aftermath of the battle hung in space like a surreal painting. Debris from Void Fleet vessels drifted alongside the battered but triumphant ships of Earth's makeshift armada. Occasional flashes of light punctuated the darkness as remaining pockets of resistance were mopped up. Aboard the UES Thunderchild, Captain Zara Blackburn slumped in her command chair, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. But there was no mistaking the pride in her eyes as she surveyed her crew. "Status report," she said, her voice hoarse from hours of shouting orders. Lieutenant Aisha Nazari looked up from her console, a disbelieving smile on her face. "We did it, Captain. The Void Fleet, or the Harvesters as we now know them, are in full retreat. What's left of them, anyway?" A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly spreading throughout the ship. Zara allowed it for a moment before raising her hand for quiet. "We've won the battle," she said soberly, "but the war isn't over. Chun, give me a line to Galactic Central." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a scene of chaos. The Galactic Council chamber was a far cry from its usual orderly state. Species from across the cosmos were shouting, gesticulating, and in some cases engaging in what looked suspiciously like interstellar dance moves of joy. High Counselor Xyrix's bioluminescent form pulsed with a riot of colors as he tried to restore order. When he noticed the incoming transmission from the Thunderchild, his tendrils went stock still in shock. "Captain Blackburn," he burbled, his translator barely keeping up. "Is it true? Have you actually defeated the Harvesters?" Zara allowed herself a small, tired smile. "Not defeated, Counselor, but we bloodied their nose and sent them packing. I don't think they'll be bothering this sector again anytime soon." A cacophony of cheers erupted from the council chamber. Xyrix's form pulsed with what Zara had learned to recognize as extreme agitation, and perhaps a hint of embarrassment. "This is unprecedented," the High Counselor sputtered. "To think that a species we considered barely more than savages could accomplish what the combined might of the Galactic Alliance could not." Zara's eyes hardened. "With all due respect, Counselor," she said, her tone making it clear she meant anything but respect, "maybe it's time for the Alliance to reconsider its stance on primitive species and obsolete technology." A murmur of agreement rippled through the council chamber. Xyrix's bioluminescence dimmed in what might have been shame. Perhaps you were right, Captain," he said slowly. "The galaxy owes humanity a great debt. Rest assured, your status within the Alliance will be reconsidered." As the transmission ended, Zara turned to her crew. "Well, folks," she said with a wry grin, "looks like we just changed the balance of power in the entire damn galaxy. Not bad for a day's work." Cheers and laughter filled the bridge. But amidst the celebration, Zara's mind was already racing ahead. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage, yes. But with great power came great responsibility and great danger. In the days that followed, as the news of Earth's victory spread across the cosmos, the changes came swiftly. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Alliance, with all the rights and privileges that entailed. Trade routes opened up, cultural exchanges began, and human obsolete technology became the hottest commodity in the galaxy. But with their newfound status came new challenges. Other species, once dismissive, now looked to Earth with a mixture of awe, fear, and in some cases, resentment. The human tendency to think outside the box, to repurpose the old in revolutionary ways, was both admired and viewed with suspicion. As for the harvesters, they retreated to the fringes of known space, licking their wounds. But Zara and others like her knew they would be back someday. And when that day came, humanity would need to be ready. In her quarters aboard the Thunderchild, now undergoing extensive repairs and upgrades, Captain Zara Blackburn gazed out at the stars. The weight of humanity's new role in the galaxy pressed heavily on her shoulders. "We showed them what we're capable of," she murmured to herself. "Now we have to show them, and ourselves, that we're worthy of the power we've gained." As the Thunderchild's engines hummed to life, preparing for its next mission, Zara allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had come so far so fast. From a species dismissed as primitive to the saviors of the galaxy in one fell swoop. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same again. And humanity, with its obsolete technology and its boundless ingenuity, would be at the forefront of whatever came next. As the ship accelerated into the vast unknown, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species, Captain Zara Blackburn smiled. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: humanity was just getting started.